So guys, welcome to the next video. And in this one, we're going to be moving on from the weekly trade routine, moving now into the daily trade routine. So of course, in the last one, we did talk about what we're going to be doing in preparation, for example, on the weekend and how we're going to be monitoring all of these areas that we're looking at. But now in this one, we're going to be talking about how we go about everything on a daily basis. And this is going to be quite in depth. So I would say this is generally the point that you should really start to take notes. So it all starts with the night before. Always preparation. I always say preparation is key. So the night before, generally, it might be in the evening, for example, or just before I go to bed, I quickly go on the charts, just have a look at some of the positions that I've got lined up. So the night before, always spend some time just identifying potential areas of interest for the day ahead. Identify supply and demand zones and areas of imbalance where price may be driven to move towards. Now, of course, depending on whether you're trading on the high time frame or the lower time frame, this will still apply regardless. You still want to monitor and just see. It's not going to take a lot of time. Might just be a few minutes here and there. But that's pretty much it. It's just in preparation for the morning ahead. Then, just as a reminder as well, this is all going to be UK time. So please do convert it into your own time zone and just see how that applies to you. But this is going to be pretty much for all of the UK sort of traders out there. I do live in London, so this is the times that I go with. Wake up at 7 a.m. So first thing I do when I do get on the charts and open up my laptop, first thing is get out your journal. So you're going to be needing that for the day ahead. If you do get into any trades, you really do want to be keeping that in an Excel sheet. Or for example, at times I do use PowerPoint just because it's a bit more visual. Secondly, Forex Factory. That's the first website that you do open. It's going to be monitoring pretty much the news events that are coming for the day ahead. Of course, you should be prepared for this before on a weekly basis, but just to remind us what's going on throughout the day. Then TradingView. That's where we're going to be looking at all the charts, and then obviously getting into all of our analysis. And then finally, the Discord community chat. So open up Discord, potentially on another monitor if you have it, or even on another device on your phone, just to see how other people or what some of the other community members are starting to get into, whether you're in the same sort of ideas as them as well. But yeah, this discipline will allow us to be as prepared as possible for the trades ahead for the day. Okay, so now we've got all the preparation ahead, out of the way, the night before and also in the morning. Now we're moving into 7 to around 7:30 a.m. So on your charts, observe price action and what has happened over the Asian session. Now, of course, when I'm talking about the daily routine, a lot of this is going to apply to the lower time frame strategy that we'll be talking about. But first things first is observe what happened over Asian session and Frankfurt session as well. So just before London session really does open, you are going to start to see some of the movement that's kicking in the Frankfurt session. And we're going to see if price has been broken out of any Asian range yet, or if any manipulations have occurred. Typically, markets will be slow at this point, so don't expect too much movement. But what we are looking for is some kind of manipulation of that Asian range. Now, moving really into the London session, 7:30 to 9 a.m. It's usually at this point around 8 a.m. that you'll start to see a bit more of the London session volume. Movements may be quick out of certain points of interest, and so our goal is to get into this certain direction once we identify the manipulative move. So with this, like I said, we do want to, London session will typically print out the high or the low of the day. Now, with that information, of course, we want to see that manipulation, and then we want to really start to look for certain points of interest that we can start to get into. Order flow should be pretty clean at this time as well. So generally, if we do get that fake move and then entries afterwards, you could be entering on the lower time frame just to follow that order flow to the downside or to the upside, whichever way we're looking at. Then 9:30 a.m. Generally, this is going to act as a reversal time or a time where that impulsive move in one direction is going to slow down at least. So like I said, between 7:30 to 9 a.m., we're going to get that massive usually you get that massive movement in London session. Then 9:30 is when it starts to quieten down. It's at this point you can either start to look for a reversal type of trade that seems pretty clear, or or around that time, like I said, price will start to slow down. In all of the back testing that I've done and everything, I typically find 9:30 is a pretty key time for them reversals. So that's just an important bit of information. It doesn't happen every single day because there are days, for example, where London session will just continue in its trend and then not really slow down at that time. But that's sort of an observation that you should keep in mind. Then we've got 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. or 12 midday, of course. Now, usually this is what I say, it's time for a break. So you've been up around since 7 a.m. or so. What I typically like to do around this time is do something that's a bit unrelated to trading. Now, of course, the gym is perfect around this time for me, just because it is generally quite quiet at that time as well. And then of course, in that time, I could even get my lunch ready and done for the day ahead. And then around 12 o'clock is when I could start to get back. Just in terms of trading as well, this time is typically has a lot lower volume than other times in London session. So it's not ideal for us to get into trade positions around this time. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. There are times where a trade might look perfect and I do want to get into that trade, but just be aware that this is typically where volume starts to deplete a bit. Then moving on into the London session and New York overlap. 12 to around 1:30 p.m. At this time, we typically see a setup about to form in terms of two ways. So we've either going to have a continuation or reversal for that day. This will depend on what the market presents in that day. But this time is quite key. As you know, it's the London and New York crossover. I've talked about this many times before. Should be a key bit of information that you know by now. This time is pretty much has most of the volume in the day when New York and London session starts to overlap. But yeah, this is where we start to see more positions happening. Then we've got 1:30. So this is a key time, especially for news events. A lot of big news events get released at this time. Just at the top of my head, we've got NFP that comes out at this time, CPI data as well, all to do with inflation. And just in general as well, 1:30 really is a key time that you want to be looking at. Not only just because of the news events, but it has a lot of volume in the day. But yeah, that's pretty much it for that. Then we're moving on towards the end of the day, 2 to 4 p.m. We should have most of our trading done by now, but there are occasions where we do see some nice expansions within New York. So as you know, New York has some of the most volume in the day. So we can expect for price to expand in a certain way. Now, of course, we would hope to get into positions before this time because we want that expansion to be our trade, right? We don't want to get in that trade as we're expanding already. You might even mess up somehow, for example, just with fear of missing out or something like that on the big move. But yeah, that's pretty much it for that. And then we're coming towards the end of the day, 4 p.m. That's the end of the London session. It really is when we do get a drop in volume. So that's something, to really take into mind. Of course, as you understand, with a drop in volume, you also can start to get reversals happen in the market. So if you are in certain trades, you do want to start taking profits, especially if you're trading intraday, for example. But at this point, typically, I will be done with the day. Anything past 4, 5 p.m., I never look for positions. If you guys have been in the group for a while, just looking on the Discord, the type of trades that I'm in, after 5 o'clock, I never really look at trades. So I would say between 4 and 5 is pretty much when you start to see a slowdown in the market. And then the end of the day, just any time in the evening, to be honest, I'll try to journal what happened for the day, taking screenshots of anything that I was in, maybe even just a bit of back testing, but usually I leave back testing for the weekends. But yeah, like I said, your day should finish after 2 p.m. But you could sit and observe until 4 p.m., what generally happens. So in conclusion, 7 a.m. wake up, 9:30 most likely done with London trades, 12 p.m. taking a break, 2 p.m. gotten involved in New York trades, end of the day is coming around 4, 5 p.m. So there's no need to overtrade. Stick to this strategy, stick to this plan, especially in terms of timing. If you really, really do stick to this routine, you're only going to be trading what? let's just say, for example, 7:30 till 9 a.m. That's what, almost 2 hours. Then you're going to be trading again from around 12, let's just say up until 2 o'clock. That's 4 hours in the day of just sitting in front of the charts. Not too bad. But yeah, this is generally the intraday sort of routine that I do stick to. And I really do think it would help you guys tremendously, sticking to something as rigid as this, having the community to do this at the same time as well. It really does help. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for this video. I'll see you all in the next one.